The world watched in astonishment. South Korea, a beacon of democracy and economic prosperity, plunged into chaos. President Yoon Suk-yeol, in an unprecedented move, declared martial law. This sent shockwaves through the nation and the international community. The very foundation of South Korean democracy seemed to tremble. Whispers of unrest had been circulating for weeks. Political tensions were escalating. Yet, no one could have predicted this. President Yoon's declaration, delivered in a somber late-night address, left the nation reeling. The military, he proclaimed, was now in control. The streets of Seoul, usually bustling with life, were eerily quiet. A heavy silence hung in the air, punctuated by the distant sirens of military vehicles. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on every citizen. What had become of their democracy? What did the future hold? Fear and confusion reigned. This was a darkness South Korea had not known for decades. The world held its breath, watching and waiting for the next development in this unfolding drama, a drama that struck at the heart of democracy itself. December 3rd will forever be etched in South Korea's memory. It began with an unsettling quiet, a sense of foreboding hanging heavy in the air. Then, President Yoon appeared on national television. His face, usually stoic, was etched with concern. His words sent shockwaves through the nation. He spoke of threats, of instability, of the need for drastic measures. Then, the declaration martial law was now in effect. The nation watched, stunned, as soldiers deployed across Seoul. The National Assembly, a symbol of South Korea's hard-won democracy, was surrounded. Armed soldiers stood guard, barring entry to lawmakers. Inside, frantic debates raged, but they were cut short. The military had silenced the very voice of the people. As darkness fell, a sense of unease settled over the city. The streets, usually alive with activity, were deserted. The silence was broken only by the rumble of military vehicles and the murmur of anxious conversations behind closed doors. This was a night of fear and uncertainty, a night that would forever stain South Korea's history. The reaction to President Yoon's declaration was immediate and explosive. Outrage reverberated through the streets of Seoul and across the globe. Protests erupted in cities across South Korea. Citizens, once accustomed to peace and stability, took to the streets in defiance. International condemnation was swift and severe. World leaders denounced the martial law declaration. They demanded a return to democratic rule. The United States, a longtime ally, expressed deep concern and urged restraint. Within South Korea, the political landscape was shaken to its core. An investigation into President Yoon's actions was swiftly launched. Calls for his resignation echoed from both sides of the aisle. The very legitimacy of his presidency hung in the balance. The military, thrust into an unenviable position, faced intense scrutiny. Top commanders were suspended, accused of exceeding their authority. The once respected institution was now mired in controversy, its reputation tarnished. The nation watched, bewildered and angry, as the situation continued to unfold. The attempted suicide of Kim Jong-hyun. As if the crisis couldn't deepen, tragedy struck. Former Defense Minister Kim Jong-hyun, a respected figure in South Korean politics, attempted to take his own life. The news reverberated through the nation, adding a chilling layer of despair to the already tense atmosphere. Kim, a staunch critic of President Yoon's recent actions, had been increasingly vocal in his opposition. He viewed the martial law declaration as a dangerous overreach of power, a threat to the very fabric of South Korean democracy. His suicide attempt, a desperate act of protest, shocked the nation. Found unconscious in his office, Kim left behind a note. Its contents, though not fully disclosed to the public, reportedly expressed his deep anguish over the state of the nation. His attempted suicide served as a tragic symbol of the turmoil engulfing South Korea. This act of desperation threw the nation into further disarray. It underscored the severity of the crisis and the deep divisions within the government. It was a stark reminder of the human cost of political turmoil, a cost too often overlooked in the corridors of power. The power struggle consuming South Korea. At the heart of this crisis lay a bitter power struggle. President Yoon, facing mounting opposition from within his own party and the public, appeared to be consolidating his grip on power. His opponents accused him of authoritarianism, of dismantling the very democracy he swore to uphold. Rumors of dissent within the military began to surface. Some high-ranking officials were rumored to be uncomfortable with the martial law declaration. They saw it as a dangerous precedent, a threat to the delicate balance of power in South Korea. The situation was further complicated by external pressures. North Korea, always opportunistic, used the crisis to its advantage. It ramped up its rhetoric, conducting military exercises and issuing veiled threats. This only served to heighten tensions on the peninsula. Amidst this maelstrom of intrigue and uncertainty, one thing was clear. South Korea was at a crossroads. The decisions made in the coming days and weeks would determine the fate of its democracy and its place on the world stage. The stakes had never been higher. The specter of impeachment loomed large over President Yoon. The opposition party, emboldened by public outrage, initiated proceedings. They accused him of abuse of power, of violating the Constitution, of betraying the trust of the people. The impeachment hearings were televised nationwide. The nation watched, captivated, as the drama unfolded. Witnesses testified, evidence was presented, and arguments were fiercely debated. The future of South Korean democracy hung precariously in the balance. In the end, the impeachment vote was incredibly close. The nation held its breath as the votes were tallied. By the narrowest of margins, President Yoon survived. But his victory rang hollow. His reputation was in tatters, his legitimacy shattered. The crisis had exposed deep divisions within South Korean society. It had shaken the nation's faith in its institutions. And while democracy had narrowly survived this time, the scars of this crisis would linger for years to come. As South Korea picks up the pieces, it does so with a sense of profound unease. The martial law crisis, though seemingly resolved, has left an indelible mark. It has exposed the fragility of democracy, its vulnerability to the whims of those in power. The road ahead will be long and arduous. Healing the divisions within South Korean society will require dialogue, reconciliation, and a renewed commitment to democratic principles. The world will be watching closely, hoping that this beacon of democracy can overcome its demons. The events of recent weeks serve as a stark reminder. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires vigilance, participation, and a willingness to defend it against those who would seek to undermine it. The future of South Korea, and indeed of democracy itself, depends on it.